Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we're on Love 99.5 FM. We're on Amenuve FM in Aflao, Radio Justice in Tamale, Jatai FM in Karaga, Bewa Radio in Yendi, Kigli FM in Boli, and Kekeli Radio in Ho. We're live on Twitter Spaces, on Facebook, and myjoyonline.com app. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. This afternoon, violence brewing in Wenchike in Tripoli in the northeast region after 2 persons have been killed and several, including a military officer, injured. We're live on the grounds. Also this afternoon, German government outlines conditions it expects Ghana to meet in order to obtain its assistance in crucial debt restructuring talks with Chinese government.
We are prepared to help only if certain conditions are met. First of all, we insist that those measures that can be taken here in this country have to be taken.
And as high-powered government delegation prepares to jet off to Asia for the talks, we'll hear from experts on it.
More likely that the Chinese will agree with us sort of debt reprofiling, just extending maturities of that rather than having a haircut on the debt.
You cannot go into this discussion assuming that it's going to be just free for you. You need to understand the dynamics.
Also this afternoon, we are breaching our party's constitution. NPP MP fires as he says the delay in setting a date for the party's internal election is completely making a mockery of the party's constitution.
We are in the process of violating the party's constitution. So if care is not taken and those provisions are violated, then really we have then basically run roughshod over our own constitution.
We have details as he says the NPP caucus in Parliament wants their presidential and parliamentary primaries to be held concurrently. Also, NPP flag bearer hopeful Alan Kojo Chairman points to his selling points as the NPP search for a flag bearer.
I'll be able to attract 80 to 85% of votes from Ashanti, which from political logic and arithmetic will put us back into power. I would also be able to dilute the influence of the NDC in their own stronghold, which is the Volta region.
And in the camp of the NDC, former Finance Minister Dr. Kwabena Dufo picks nominations to contest the presidential race of the party.
They should help me wipe the tears from the eyes of Ghanaians, soothe the pain in the hearts of Ghanaians. That requires a leader with the courage to change things.
We have details of that and more. So in sports,
we'll hear from a GFA Executive Council member who wants Ghanaians to accept reality that big name tax no longer affects results of matches in international football.
I have more politics as General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association picks forms to contest the Lambusi constituency elections. And also with less than 48 hours to go, Nigeria's IGP has placed restrictions on vehicular movement ahead of the elections.
A restriction of all forms of vehicular movement on roads, waterways, and other forms of transportation.
We have that and more in this afternoon's edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. Please stay for details. Many thanks for staying with us. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. We start off from Tripoli, where 2 people have been killed and 5 others injured, including a military officer in a communal violence this morning at Wenchike in the Tripoli district. The violence is said to have spread to 6 other communities, while scores of houses and household granaries have reportedly been set ablaze, with dozens of residents fleeing towards the district's capital. My colleague Ilyasu Tanko is monitoring events, therefore, as he joins us live with details. Ilyasu, give us what really is the cause of this latest clash. Hello, Ilyasu. We're trying to work the lines and connect to my colleague Ilyasu Tanko. We are told that apart from the reported deaths, there are about 25 homes have been burnt, and the police and the security are on the ground trying to maintain peace there. Ilyasu Tanko, I was asking earlier about the cause of this latest clash.
Well, we understand the violence started this morning when the chief of Wenchike attempted to obtain a sub-chief in the area. Unknown gunmen opened fire at the chief palace where this particular process were being held, and the military who were there, we understand, also exchanged fire with these unknown gunmen. As we speak currently, 2 people have confirmed death and 5 people are currently receiving treatment at the Chirpani Hospital, including a military personnel. So the violence was sparked by the attempt of the T20K chief to skin a sub-chief in the area.
And we're told this is spreading to 6 other communities. You've been engaging authorities on this. What exactly are the measures put in place to avert further clashes?
Well, the violence currently is concentrated in the Wenchiti town as we speak. We understand because the military officer was shot, the military withdrew from the community. And our understanding is that for 30 minutes now, the 2 factions have been engaging each other uninterruptedly without the presence of the security. And 2 other nearby communities, as we understand, are also engaged in the violence. The Security Council in the district are currently in emergency meeting. They will be taking new deployment into this particular community. But as we speak right now, the military who accompany the procession to do the escapement have withdrawn from the community.
Well, that's my colleague Ilyasu Tanko bringing us the latest from Tripoli. Is monitoring events. I'll plead with you, Ilyasu, to stay safe as you bring us a report on what's happening. There's more also on that on myjoyonline.com. We're still working the lines to reach security authorities there on what exactly the situation is. But whilst we wait, the German government says it will only be willing to assist government in its crucial debt restructuring talks with China if certain conditions, including increase in revenue generations, are met. A high-powered government delegation is set to jet off to China to engage the Asian giants. The aim is to restructure $1.7 billion owed China as Ghana hopes to complete restructuring of its external debt as part of conditions required to secure an IMF program. President Akufo-Addo had earlier asked for the assistance of the German government to convince the Chinese government.
And we are looking for, as quickly as possible, a credible committee to be established, so we will have the body with whom we can engage to bring those discussions as quickly as possible. You have good relations with China. We'd like you to to encourage China to participate. Very important consideration for us is the Financial Stability Fund.
Listen to Finance Minister Ken Ofori to announce the trip to China.
A big elephant in the room, of course, is China, as to how China will comport themselves in that for comparability of treatment, because China wants to do a bilateral. We will be visiting China at the end of the week to really discuss how they come into the envelope as quickly as possible. The German Minister of Finance was clear that he will put his weight behind ensuring that everybody is in the common framework.
Well, the German government has been speaking on the conditions it expects Ghana to meet to enable it tasked diplomatic agents to intervene. Daniel Kroll is German ambassador to Ghana.
He had talks in Ghana, and his message was clearly, yes, we are prepared to help, but we are prepared to help only if certain conditions are met. First of all, we insist that those measures that can be taken here in this country have to be taken. The second condition is that yes, we are willing to take our share of responsibility as one of the major bilateral donors to Ghana, but only if all the others also join in this effort. And there is a multilateral framework that was set up exactly for these kind of crises, and we urge and try to convince all stakeholders in this process to stick to this agreed framework. It's the
How do you feel we could be fulfilling our side of the bargain as part of the internal conditions you feel we could be meeting?
Let me point to three elements. Right. The biggest loss maker in Ghana is the energy sector. In this sector alone, each year 1.5 billion new debt is piled up. Wow. So if that is not solved, then you can ask the IMF for 10 billion. You still will not solve the problem in the medium term. So there has to be an answer in Ghana to the 50% technical and non-technical losses in the energy sector. If that is not resolved, I don't see how we can find a sustainable solution for the financial problems of the country. The second part is on the other side of the budget, and that is the revenues. Ghana has one of the lowest tax to GDP ratios.
That's Daniel Kroll, is German ambassador to Ghana. You want to catch the full interview on diplomatic affairs with my colleague Blessed Suga on Fridays at 10 p.m. on the Joy News channel. Well, senior credit research analyst at Red Intelligence, Mark Berlin, says the Chinese government will be more open to extending maturity dates rather than accepting a haircut.
I would say that the government has now sort of completed the big hurdle with the domestic debt restructuring, and it should be easier to agree on a debt with external creditors.
Okay, so that's some good news. I like the way you're looking at it. I mean, can we get an executive board approval, assuming we don't get the Chinese buy-in? Is that possible?
Yes, I think essentially the IMF, I think in this case, can deem away that even if the Chinese don't agree to this, they could do that. I think it's more likely that the Chinese will agree with a sort of debt reprofiling, just extending maturities of that rather than having a haircut on the debt, and that will be enough to seal the deal with the IMF.
Well, economist Professor Godfred Bopping shares this view and wants the Ghana delegation to go into the negotiations well prepared.
If you look at the way Ghana itself had also played its part in this global geopolitics with Russia, Ukraine, more or less favoring the West and the rest of them, and looking at the stand of China and Russia and all of that, that already sends all kinds of suspicion.
So
right?
are you suggesting the team that is heading to China will have a tough time getting the Chinese
to have a negotiation skill? You cannot go into this discussion assuming that it's going to be just free for you. You need to understand the dynamics. You need to understand where China is coming from. You need to understand the global geopolitics. You need to look at where China leans towards. You need to look at Ghana's own statement in the past and the rest of them with respect to Burkina Faso and the comment our president made and all of that. So you need to put all these things within context.
That's economist Professor Godfred Bopping there speaking on PM Express with Evans Mensah. Let's head into the election headquarters now, and this afternoon, New Patriotic Party MP for Subin constituency, Eugene Boachientry, says the unnecessary delay that has characterized the party setting a date for presidential and parliamentary primaries is breaching the party's constitution. NPP's national leadership have been unable to agree on a date after several meetings with deep internal disagreement. The MP says the party's inaction is making the constitution look like a worthless piece of paper.
The party's constitution has set clear timelines for both presidential and parliamentary primaries. So it's up to the National Executive as well as the National Executive Committee, that's NEC, and National Council, to apply same. I wasn't at those meetings, but the newly elected executives, of course, have a role to play in ensuring that we are not seen to be violating the provisions of our own constitution. That's very paramount, because we claim to be, or we are known to be, a party of rule of law, private property owning democracy, name it. So we have high standards in terms of our democratic credentials. And I was a firm believer that if care is not taken, it will be the first time since 1992 that we'll be seen to be violating the provisions of our own constitution.
Well, according to him, the NPP caucus in Parliament favours an early Congress around August, and they also want the presidential and parliamentary primaries to be held at the same time.
The party's constitution has set clear timelines. There are only two categories of elections to be held: the flag bearers election and the parliamentary candidates elections. So these are the primary stakeholders. And the MP, during, I think, 2 caucus meetings, made it clear that they wanted an August or September primaries for the parliamentary group. We are also the view that taking cognizance of the fact that the economic quagmire in which we find ourselves with these IMF interventions and what have you, we should consolidate those two elections into one.
And that's the Subin MP, Eugene Boachinchu. We stay a while longer in the stables of the NPP, and I am marketable, a unifier, and can consolidate the NPP's votes in the strongholds. Those are the selling points of former Treats Minister Alan Kwadwo, who is bidding to lead the party in the next polls. Thrice defeated presidential hopeful says his rounds in the country has convinced him of his chances in the yet-to-be-announced Delegates Congress of the NPP to select a presidential candidate. Speaking on Upper East Radio at Bogatanga as part of his tour of the region, Alan Chemantin says he stands tall among his peers for the job.
My appeal goes beyond the NPP. If the delegates of our party are looking for someone who can guarantee them a victory in a very difficult election that is coming up in 2024, apart from the marketability of the candidate, they also need someone who can consolidate their votes in our stronghold. And we all know that the Ashanti region is the stronghold of the NPP. Several years, the statistics demonstrate that. And I can assure our delegates and our party sympathizers that if I am selected to lead the party, that I'll be able to attract at least 80% or 80 to 85% of votes from Ashanti.
And that's Alan Kwadwo taking us now to the camp of the NDC, and flag bearer hopeful Dr. Kwabena Duffuor says he's in the race to bring prosperity to all Ghanaians. He's joined a growing list of persons seeking to lead the opposition NDC as its presidential candidate, as his teaming supporters this morning picked his form and are currently heading to his official campaign office to hand them over. Dr. Duffuor becomes the fourth candidate to do so and tells Joy News the aim is to bring prosperity to all Ghanaians.
I think I've talked about a dream, a Ghanaian dream, before. My personal view is that every Ghanaian, no matter the birth of his or her circumstances, should have equal opportunity in our system to achieve whatever he or she wants to achieve. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. That dream will bring about prosperity and happiness. That dream will make all of us become very patriotic. That dream will make us be loyal to Ghana, our motherland, not to any political party or to any individual, because we're not loyal to our nation, because we're not very patriotic enough. There's so much confusion in our system now. I would ask them to help me fix the economy. Right now, the biggest challenge we are facing is the economy. We are all hungry. We are hungry as people. There are tears in the eyes of Ghanaians everywhere. They should help me wipe the tears from the eyes of Ghanaians, soothe the pain in the hearts of Ghanaians. That requires a leader with the courage to change things.
My colleague Samuel Imbura is monitoring events for us. He joins us on the line. Samuel, has nominations forms for Dr. Kwabena Duffuor been duly delivered, and what have the supporters been saying?
So the picking of the form for Dr. Duffuor has been done successfully on his behalf by the Ashanti Regional Women's Organizer, Gloria, who is with the full support of his constituency women's organizers. And they say they are supporting Dr. Duffuor because he has a proven record of good leadership when he was a finance minister, and the impact of the Ahosa project is there to show. The spokesperson for the Duffuor campaign team, Antonio Eden Asenyo, has assured that if Dr. Duffuor is given the opportunity, they will expand the Ahosa project to benefit all Ghanaians.
Our great party, the National Democratic Congress, and our beloved country, Ghana, does not find itself in normal times. The times require for three things: a leader with a track record and experience; two, a leader with the depth, understanding, appreciation, willingness, and ability to lead us throughout the crisis to the promised land; and three, most importantly, a leader that is trustworthy, truly accountable to the people. And we find no other qualities or these qualities in any candidate but Dr. Kwabena Duffuor.
Well, we know so far Odododio Diogomwa is and two others join a growing list of constituencies barred from issuing out nomination forms, the parliamentary primaries of the NDC. Well, the party is yet to give reasons for the suspension of nominations in these constituencies, but according to a statement, the functional executive committee will in due course announce dates for the opening of nominations. My colleague and a leading member of the political desk, Elton Brobe, joins me in studio with more on this. Let's walk through some of the constituencies that we are learning are not picking nominations.
So the latest to join this growing list is Binduri, also Akontombra. And if you also go to the area list, Famina, Sobin, Manshia, South, Mansour Dubia, Asante Akem Central, Bosome Frehom, Offensive North, and about 20 more. It's unclear the reason why the party has taken this decision, but we are told that there's a lot of petitions that the party is considering. Until these petitions are cleared off, they will not be able to open nominations in these 27 constituencies so far.
And some interesting names emerging to contest the parliamentary primaries.
In fact, a while ago, I spoke to the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Titus Bayo, who has picked nominations from to contest the Lambusi constituency in the Upper East region. Now, he confirmed to me that he's resigned his role as General Secretary of the GMA to pursue this political agenda.
Consequently, I have resigned my position as the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. I have come to this point because I believe that there's a need to respond to this call to duty and serve my people. I have worked in this community. I have done a lot in this constituency, and I've played my role as a professional and an academic. But at this point, I think I need to make that switch. Why? Because I think the constituency has been deprived of true leadership, leadership of service, leadership of dedication, leadership of advocacy. And I think I'm well positioned to speak up for my people.
So that's the former General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Titus Bayo. Interesting names also coming up, more names that you've been looking at.
So we've just got confirmation that he himself has confirmed that he's picked nomination forms. This is Muntaka Mubarak, the Member of Parliament for Sawasi. He says he's going to contest the seat and he's looking forward to having a very good relationship with his constituencies. Like, you know, there's been some back and forth between him and the rest. We also heard of Dr. Senanu Kwesi Jokoto for the Keita constituent. Now, Keita is really going to be very interesting because of the names that have come up so far. Daughter of the late Lamte, I've just lost David Lamte's daughter, has also picked nominations from to contest the seat occupied by Dr. Zanato Rawlings in the Greater Accra region. So, interesting names coming up. Few more days for them to pick nominations. I'm sure by the time nominations are closed, we'll know who and who will be going.
Busy time for you at the political desk. But let me take you to Nigeria. And in some 48 hours, they will open polls there. Nigeria IGP Usman Alkali Baba has ordered the restriction of vehicular movement across the country between the hours of 12 and 6 p.m. Police spokesperson Olumiyawa Adejobi says the move is necessary to secure the environment for the safe organization of elections.
Police, Federal Republic of Nigeria, IGP Usman Alkali Baba has ordered a restriction of all forms of vehicular movement on roads, waterways, and other forms of transportation from 12 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Election Day, that is 25th February 2023. With the exception of those on essential services, the Inspector General of Police sternly warns all security aides and escorts to desist from accompanying their principals and politicians to polling booths and collation centers during the election, as anyone found flouting this directive will be severely sanctioned.
Time for a quick breather here on the Midday News, brought to you by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. When we return, we have sports and how the dream to design buildings turned into using music to win souls for God.
I wanted to be actually an architect, not a musician. It was what I realized the architecture required or demanded from me, which was time.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Time for sports. Mubarak, what do we have?
Yes, Emefa. Now, Ghana's performance at tournaments has not been up to the mark in recent years. The senior men's national team, who boast of 4 Africa Cup of Nations titles, did not progress from the group stages of their last 2 tournaments. The women's senior national team as well, the Black Queens, have also failed to play any competitive tournament since 2018. Now, Ghana's recent disappointment was at the Chan tournament, where the team was eliminated by Niger at the quarterfinals. Now, GFA Executive Council member Dr. Tony Obin wants Ghanaians to accept reality.
Don't let us think that football is by name, our country. No, there's no longer a country name playing football. Everybody is doing one. Madagascar, they never lost a match in their preparation stage. And then look at the style of play and so on. So, in those days, going to play with Madagascar, you go and sleep. Going to play with Niger, you go and sleep. This is the first time Niger has beaten us. So I think, but we are on the right footing. I believe that there's emphasis on juvenile system now, the various levels, and even women football, and the infrastructure that is gradually coming up. I'm sure it will go into improving football, but we are not there yet, and we should not be relying too much on our old Baba Yara history.
GFA Executive Council member Dr. Tony Obin.
Well said. Thank you, Mubarak. Now, Chief Justice Kwesi Eninyewa is blaming the poor state of courtrooms as part of factors affecting the effective delivery of justice across the country over the years. Speaking at a ceremony to inaugurate a new court in the Ashanti region, he said his office remains resolute in ensuring justice is accessible at the doorstep of every Ghanaian in a timely and effective manner.
Our gathering here today is in fulfillment of the mandate of the judiciary and the judicial service of Ghana to ensure access to justice to the people of Ashanti Achim South. It is also part of efforts to deal with the lack and the distressingly poor state of our physical infrastructure, which have over the years militated against the effective operation of the courts generally. The work environment of the courts must not only be conducive to productivity, but also reflect the authority and dignity of the judiciary.
It's time for Tech Thursday, and internet users are most often swarmed with advertisements as they access different websites and social media. Worst of it all, they are not rewarded for viewing these ads. But some computer science students of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology are trying to change this with an app called My Admo. On Tech Thursday, Love FM's Kwesi Debra speaks with app developers Richard Chadite and Philip Alote.
My Admo is an ad blocker extension that does not only block ads, but gives users points for the ads they view. They then earn points they can use to purchase products in the marketplace provided by My Admo. Advertisers can also sell their products through My Admo.
My name is Richard Chadite, and this is my partner Philip Alote. Please, the name of our ad is called My Admo. Now, what My Admo is an extension, a browser extension that allows users to get points from viewing ads, and then also helps advertising companies to also let people see their ads.
In the signing up process, the user is also given the privilege to choose the kind of preferences that they would also want, as in the types of ads that they might want to view. Now, Admo offers a marketplace where the user can purchase things, can purchase items with the points that they might have earned through the ads that they watched. My Admo experience in surfing the internet. So upon enabling the extensions, you would realize that Admo would block all these ads that may be on the page. So after some time, the My Admo button displays, and upon pressing it and upon clicking it, it immediately opens a window where you can view an ad and then earn a point.
Well, that's our Tech Thursday. The full version of that is on myjoyonline.com, and also you can catch it on the Joy News channel. And just before we go, let's talk about the dream, how that dream of designing buildings turned into using music to win souls. That's the story of Joe Metal.
I wanted to be actually an architect. I wanted to be an architect, not a musician, but I know that at the back of my mind, I always knew that I would sing or do music, for some reason, but I knew that I was also going to still practice the architecture. And so I actually started. I used to do building drawing. I did that for a few years. You plan it depending on the size of land, space, the kind of like design. It was what I realized the architecture demanded from me, which was time, a lot of it. It wasn't one of those kind of like fields where you can do and be doing other. No, you needed to focus on it. And it wasn't helping. I knew that I was spending most of my time doing ministry. And so I wanted to do something else that I love to do where it will not affect the ministry. And so I decided to go study marketing.
Sing, I've come to praise you for your goodness and your kindness, your faithfulness and love you show to.
Of course, that's one time Artist of the Year, Joe Metal, taking us out of today's edition of the Midday News. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Government postpones meeting with China on debt cancellation to March 2023. 2 reportedly killed, 5 injured in communal violence at Tripoli. That and more on myjoyonline.com. We have Living Word with Pastor Menzel Tabil, Lost and Found. I am Emefa